Hello, Haunted Family. Welcome back. Story 1. Who's been touching my hats? I'm an avid hat collector, and I love going to thrift shops and buying old hats. I keep a lot of my hats on this hall tree that stands in the foyer of my house. One night, some of my friends and I were all watching TV in my den. So here we all were, sitting in the den, watching a movie, when we noticed movement in the hallway. The den is situated so you can see into the entryway hallway, but you can't really see into the foyer. I peered a little more closely and noticed that 3 of my hats were on the floor near the hall tree. I didn't think this was a big deal. The hats could have easily fallen off. My best friend got up and replaced the hats to their proper place. About 10 minutes later, we noticed something falling from the ceiling and land in front of the bathroom door. I looked and I saw that it was my hats again, the same 3 as before. It was as if they had been picked up and thrown into the air. There was no way for them to have fallen and landed there. I asked my friend where she put the hats, and she told me that she had put them on the table next to the hall tree. So there was no way they could have fallen. Even more so, if they did fall, there was no way they would have jumped up by themselves to the ceiling and then landed in the corner as far away from that table as they did. There was no one in the house at the time except for us, and we were all in the den. We were all too scared to put the hats back. We didn't know what we'd see around the corner. So we left them there. And almost immediately, after the hats were thrown, this freezing gust of wind came at us from the hallway. It was the middle of summer, and it was warm in the house. We got freaked out, and my friends decided they were going to go home, by way of the back door. As soon as they left, and I was alone, I heard this strange sound. Almost like something was going in a slow revolution. The sound was very distinct. One that I'd heard before. I turned around and saw on the kitchen table one of those spinning tops, slowly losing its momentum as it spun around all by itself. The thing is that no one had been near that table all night. Not even when they were leaving. And the top, which was totally manual, had been spinning on its own. I decided to join my friends and leave. Story 2. Good boy. I was in basic training, and we were on this very long road march, when out of nowhere, this beautiful yellow lab, with no collar on, that looked exactly like my dog at home, comes running up to me, and walks beside me of all people, for a few minutes, before running back into the woods. This was a big boost for me, because you needed to finish the march as one of the requirements to graduate. And to be honest, I was dragging due to stress fractures in my feet and just general fatigue. I was able to finish. And we earned a phone call home. I called my mom, and she informed me that she had to put my dog down. She was sick before I left, and they were hoping that she would hold on for another week or so. But she just got too bad. When that dog came up to me, literally out of nowhere, there wasn't any houses around for miles. One of the things that me and my dog loved to do together was go for runs. So I like to think that it was my dog coming to me to say goodbye. Story 3. Hush. When I was about 12, I started getting left home alone, and something started to shush me. I'd be pouring cereal, singing along to the TV, and suddenly, shh, hush. First time it happened, I absolutely crapped myself. I didn't say a word until someone else came home. But I didn't tell anybody because I didn't think anyone would believe me. I even started to convince myself that it must be just my imagination. But then it would happen again. I think it happened 6 or 7 times. One Saturday morning, I was in the top bunk of my bed, and beds were super noisy. The slightest move would result in them creaking. And suddenly, shh, hush. I thought it was my younger sister, and I decided to annoy her further by rocking about in my bunk bed, making as much noise as possible. And then the shushing happened again. I chuckled, still thinking it was my sister, and then she whispered, nervously below me, "Was that you? The shushing sound? That was you, right?" I popped my head down and said, "No, it was you." She looked terrified. Her eyes welled up with tears, and she was like, No, it wasn't." She bolted out of the room crying and wouldn't come back in for the longest time. I realized it must have been the shushing ghost, and was so overcome with relief that I wasn't crazy and that someone else heard it too. I haven't heard it since then, but I'm always kind of waiting for it. Story 4. Prisoner Ghost. I've been working in a youth prison for about 6 years. 3 years ago, we went to 12-hour shifts, and I worked night shift. The prison is built like a high-rise complex with 16 used floors, and the 17th floor is maintenance. Floors 5 and 6 are connected, 7 and 8 connect, 9 and 10 connect, 11 and 12 connect, 13 and 14 connect, and floors 15 and 16 are separate. Floors 13, 14, and 16 are segregation floors. This may seem meaningless at this point, but I promise you'll better understand everything later. I worked on 13 for 3 years. Right after we went to 12 hours, an officer died on 14. He had an aneurysm and died pretty quickly. On any occasion, things would move, be seen, or you'd hear noises. One particular night was pretty freaky. The officers on 14 had just finished giving showers. There are 4 hallways. 2 on north side, 2 on south side. Each hallway has 2 showers. Showers can be locked. As custom, after showers are completed, they are cleaned and the doors are locked. The officer was out on the floor and was going to each hallway locking the showers. When he got to shower C, the inmate on B hall started yelling and raising Cain. We heard this all the way down on 13 and ran up the steps to see if they needed any help. Both officers there went out on the floor. I ran out of the officer station to make sure no one was hurt. My partner, he stayed behind. The shower doors on B were standing wide open, with the deadbolt still in the locked position. The officer had locked them, closed the door and locked them. Yet somehow they were standing open. So the officer with the key unlocked them, shut the door, locked it back. When quizzed about it, the inmate said that it just popped open. Weird, huh? I recently requested to be taken off 13 because I was getting burnt out. I was the only female that worked on that floor. And honestly, I got tired of having to be one of the guys. I was moved down to 7th. And some nights, I used to relieve the officers on other floors so they can go home or take a break, whatever. Last week I was on 11 to relieve an officer because he had to go home. Me and the 12th floor officers were sitting on 11 when we heard someone knock on the window up on 12. The windows are double plated with wire running through them to make them unbreakable, I guess. They make a very distinct sound, kind of a hollow thud, almost like a bass drum. It knocked twice. The 12th floor officers ran upstairs to make sure that someone hadn't come off the upstairs outside elevator and wanted to come in. I went up right behind them. There was no one there. That's when they decided to tell me they had a ghost. They'd seen it on the camera monitors numerous times. I stayed up there all night, hoping to see it, but I never did. But I have seen one on other floors. It just kind of takes you off your guard. Well, I have to say, I really loved story 1 about the hats because old hats is one of the numerous unusual things that I collect. I've got quite a few sitting around me right now. So far, no ghost has messed with them that I know of. Anyway, thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed the stories. If you did, drop me a comment down below. Subscribe if you want to. Hit the like button. I appreciate that. And as always, thanks for listening. Music by Carl Casey at White Bat Audio.